Alright guys, my name is Douglas. In today's video, we're going to take a look over my Creality Ender 3 3D printer. I'm going to give you a rough overview of it, show you the components, how it works. I'm going to also show you the software that I use, my slicer, which is Cura. And yeah, we'll talk over some prints I've made, future upgrades, and yeah, let's crack into it. So this here is my Creality Ender 3. I bought this kit probably 2 years ago. I think I got it from Banggood or Alibaba or somewhere, some kind of website like that. It was super cheap. The whole kit was probably £120, I think. That came as what they call a DIY kit, which sounds like you have to build the entire thing in one go, but in reality that actually means it comes with the base here is all complete, these legs are complete, and you basically have to assemble this kind of cross axis here. The extruder, the hot end need kind of assembled onto the arm, and obviously put this top bit in as well. On top of that, what you have to do is then set up the machine. So I'll go over the setup now. So basically, once you've assembled the machine, which is pretty easy, I think it took me about an hour to assemble the machine. The most important part you want to get right when you're building it is making sure the frame is square so that it's not skew width, it's not squint. The longer you take, the more time you take to set up the machine, the better your prints are going to be. So the squarer you can get it helps. Obviously you level it on a nice solid surface, that helps as well. And then, yeah, as I mentioned, the setup of the machine on the software, that also helps. So at the start of the whole process, as I mentioned, once you've completed building the machine, what you need to do is level your bed. So under here, you can see these, I don't know if you can see that, but there's adjustment screws. There's 4 of them, one in each corner. Now, a lot of higher end machines come with what they call self-level, which essentially uses a sensor on here, and it moves, if I can move that across, it would essentially come down, touch the bed in multiple points, and the software automatically calibrates the machine based on how level this is. Unfortunately, this machine doesn't have that, so what you have to do is manually set that. So these adjustment screws help you level the bed so that it's a nice level print surface. That means you're going to get a nicer print. It's going to stick to the bed properly, and if you don't do that correctly, you're going to run into all sorts of problems. The way I like to do it is by using a sheet of paper, and what I'll do is I'll power up the machine, I'll home it onto its center axis so it sits about here, then I'll put a sheet of paper on and I'll manually move my the print head around, just so that you can feel a bit of resistance between the print head and the print bed here. I'll probably go into detail on that in another video. I'll show you the more detailed setup and printing of I'll show you the entire printing process essentially. But for now, that's just a brief overview. So yeah, you've leveled your bed now. Now what you want to do is obviously get your material loaded into the machine. This machine comes with a standard filament holder, which is just up here. Obviously this is a roll of filament that I've got in here, just some PLA, and you can see the filaments coming down into here. This is the extruder. So basically it's a stepper motor which pinches the material and feeds it through this PTFE tube into the hot end. Now the hot end is what actually heats up the filament. In this case, this would go to about 210 degrees Celsius, and essentially the extruder pushes the material through the hot end, which melts it, and it comes out the nozzle here. You probably can't see that, but it's just a brass nozzle, 0.4 millimeters, which is the kind of standardized size, although you can get bigger or smaller ones depending on what you need, and then that will print the material. So on top of that, to actually get your movement left and right, obviously the bed moves back and forward, and you've got a Z-axis height as well, which is done from a lead screw at the back here, if you can see that. But yeah, this system, different 3D printers use different systems. The Ender 3 uses a typical kind of rubber belt, which is run off this axis, the stepper motors behind here, which essentially drives the belt left and right, which then moves the hot end. Likewise, the Z axis up and down, you've got stepper motor down here, which spins the lead screw, and then that drives the whole arm up and down. And same again on the bottom, you can see the belt just there, and there's a stepper motor to do that as well. That basically covers your movement of the printing, and what it'll do, it'll just print one layer, it'll go up a layer, print another layer, blah blah blah. There you go. If we go around to the side here, you have the power supply, which is that piece right there. Your power cable goes in here, you've got the on-off switch. Then you get down to the sort of control panel. This is a control panel here. It's all controlled via this knob, which clicks in and out and spins around. You can do kind of fine tuning on this screen, things like temperature and overall kind of speed. But generally all your settings and control is done prior to printing on the software on the computer, which I'll show you soon. If we come down to the bottom, this is your memory card slot and a USB port. So my workflow generally involves always doing my designs and my slicing files on the computer, which I then save to a micro SD card. That goes in there, and then you load in your file through this screen. And that's kind of the essentials of the 3D printer, of any 3D printer really. There isn't a huge amount to them. They're kind of simple. Spare parts are easy to get. They're pretty easy to work on. Yeah, there's not a huge amount more I can say about them really. What I'm going to do now is I will show you the software that I use just quickly. So I'll take you over to the computer now and show you that. So to give you a quick rundown of the software, first of all, you either want to design something yourself, maybe using Fusion 360, or you could go on a website like Thingiverse. That's one of the most popular ones, and you can browse a whole host of files and functions. This is a headphone stand. I've actually made this myself. If you go on the home screen, or you can search stuff, there's just thousands of files you can download that other people have designed, which you can then 3D print yourself. Once you've downloaded that, you'll get files, or once you've designed something, here's the stand that I was on about, the headphone kind of mount for a desk. It's kind of hard because I'm on a laptop, but I can't really drag it around. But anyway, you can see here, so basically I've opened this file, opened in the model, and you can see this, similar to the laser cutter, this is your printing bed. The software is configured to the machine that I've got, so there's the Creality Ender 3, and if you had a different kind of 3D printer, you can go in there and basically tweak it to whatever you need. Once you've got your file in this box here, you get all these different settings you can control to speed up your print and improve the quality, kind of dial in the settings, change the temperature, all that kind of stuff. Once you've done that, you hit your slice button, and this is the software converting all these configuration parameters here and the model into what they call G-code, which is what the 3D printer reads. So in here you can see this is estimating it's going to take about 6 hours 51 minutes, and that's with these generic settings that I've loaded in. It's going to use approximately 55 grams of filament, which is 18.45 meters of filament. Generally, filament comes in 1 kilogram rolls. So what you would do from here is you would save the disk. I would then insert my SD card and copy it onto the SD card. And then we would come over to the printer and stick the SD card in here. Go in here, print from SD card, hit the file, and basically the machine will do the rest. It'll heat it up, the bed, the nozzle, everything heats up to what you've put in the computer, and yeah, it'll just start. Once you're printing on here, you can actually pause or you can stop the print. As I mentioned earlier, you can tweak a whole bunch of stuff. I've never really got into that. and it's, let's say you had a power cut, the machine would actually resume where it left off from once you regain power. So yeah, really good functionality from this. Now what I'll show you now, I'll get this out of the way and I'll put a couple of things I've printed on here, and I'll show you that as well. So join me in a second. Right, so these are a couple of things I've printed here. This item, this is a scale model of something I've actually printed in a bigger form. This is for a kit car based on a Citroen 2CV, and it's actually for an air intake. So I designed this from scratch on Fusion. Obviously measured off the real car, and yeah, basically designed it up. Put a little recess in there for an O-ring, and yeah, I've tested it on the car, it works perfectly. So I'll be doing more videos on this in the future because I need to tweak the design a little bit, and then basically upgrade my 3D printer so that I can then print this in a much hardier material like nylon or carbon fiber reinforced nylon. So more to come on that in the future. This is probably more interesting for most people. This is what they call a sliding Legolini, and is essentially a crossbow. You can see the name on there. Now this, I would fully recommend if you've got a 3D printer to make this. There's a huge website dedicated to this model, designed by someone else, and loads of research and testing got into it. It's quite complex to make, and you need your 3D printer to be working pretty well, but it teaches you a whole bunch of new skills, like putting in kind of nuts and bolts, and yeah, it's a really cracking model. You just have to use different colour materials. It's the first thing I 3D printed, which I then assembled with nuts and bolts, and is fully functioning. So it's really pretty powerful, and it's great fun, like out in the garden shooting targets and stuff. So yeah, this probably takes a few days of printing, and there's a whole 60-page PDF document on how to make this. But yeah, this is one of the best things I've made, I think. And aside from that, I've got lots of smaller things in the house. I made little hooks for my towel rail in my bathroom. Loads of stuff for the 3D printer, printed stuff for the laser cutter. Yeah, really handy cars as well. You know, I've printed loads of interior car parts, like little trim pieces or covers and clips and stuff like that. So I'm hoping to bring more of that to the channel in the future. But essentially that's kind of been it. That's been a very rough overview of my Creality Ender 3. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. If you've enjoyed it, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. If you've got any questions or criticisms, comments, just chuck them in there and I'll try and get back to you. And hopefully the next video will have a bit more of a 3D printing project. Well, I know we have to upgrade the printer. So we've got this hot end, all metal hot end, which is going to go on. So I'll do a whole video on that, kind of how-to series, and maybe do a few parts of that. So yeah, cheers guys, and see you in the next video.